Hi, I wasn't sure it was on. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, excuse me, this is part 2 of the story of Bridget. And you will see I smile through it because Bridget, even though I was terrified at times, Bridget has enriched my life more than I could ever have imagined. Okay, so we left off around a year. She still had the heart monitor on, and the doctor appointments start chilling out a little bit at Easter. So she was, I believe, like a year and a half. Excuse me. I was making Easter breakfast. Katie had done all the Easter egg hunt things because we hid them in the house. And my next door neighbor actually would take her over to their house, and we would hide the eggs real fast. And so she did all the, the egg hunt things, and her and her dad were playing and not really paying attention. Bridget was on a blanket in the middle of the living room, and I came in. I was making eggs and bacon and whatnot, for breakfast, and there she was sitting up, all by herself. And this is a kid who would only keep her head in one direction. She always, when she would, if you laid her down, she only had her head turned, never midline. But I would see her turn it while she was sleeping, so I knew she was capable of having it midline. So she's sitting up, all by herself, in her little Easter dress, and I don't know what the cats are knocking down. I just stopped and froze. And I always call that my Easter miracle. Because no one was around her, no one was encouraging her, she did it naturally. And from then on, she took off. She started when she was 18 months, she started her early intervention program. And at 18 months, they would come to the home. I don't know if it was once a week or a few times a week. The teacher would come and just do the sensory things, songs, just different things to interact with her, to get her moving and grooving. And she started pulling herself up. And she stayed in the home program until she was 2. But so in the meantime, she started pulling up on me, and she would, pull up and glide on the couch. And it was so funny that one of the ways she learned to walk, and I don't know how either one of them figured it out, but Katie was still in diapers, and Bridget would grab the back of her pants and get up and walk. So Katie would walk around with Bridget hanging onto the back of her pants, and Bridget could get a good grip because there was a diaper there. And Katie would walk around, and poor Katie, I mean, she put up with so much. And then Katie knew she was helping, And I would hold Bridget up, and Katie would stand across the room and, say, come on, Bridget. And Bridget would walk to her. So Bridget was very interactive at this time. She was really coming out of her shell, reaching milestones, of course, months later than other children, but she was getting there. She started in her program around, like I said, 2. And that was a really interesting experience. Katie was in preschool, and I would drop her off for preschool and then take Bridget off to her program. When she began the program, you stayed in with her for a couple days. Then you got behind a partition to watch and see how they could do without you. And she did fine without me. And then the moms would go into a conference room, and we would just hang out and chill and talk about our problems, talk about our husbands, talk about life, talk about goofy stuff, talk about Christmas plans or Halloween or whatever. I actually made an entire Halloween costume while I was there. I was just sewing and talking the whole time. But she made actually one friend, Joey, and they would hang out all the time. Their walking was pretty much the same because she was still teetering, and he had Angelman syndrome, and he was having trouble walking. So they would both pull up on the same thing, and 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 it was so funny because Joey liked to pull hair, and I know he got Katie down to the floor one time, just got her ponytail and just took her right to the floor. And he would never touch Bridget. Never, ever, ever. He never touched her. And they were just like best buds. And in turn, his mom and I became very good friends. So that was really a wonderful program. They played in cold spaghetti. They played in leaves. They played in macaroni. There was a sandbox with with different things in the backyard of the center. And unfortunately, most of the kids would just plant their face in the sand and didn't care with their mouths open. It was disgusting. But they were very creative, and they gave us a lot of opportunities to share the time with the siblings. So when Bridget was in class, Katie could come with me, and all the siblings could play. The teachers didn't have a problem with it. There were a few different classes going on, but the kids really were pretty well behaved. And we would buy them snacks and everything, and they would just hang out with us. So it was pretty cool. They were under the tables and everything. So the siblings were always pretty much included. If they had a big event like we would go to the zoo, then definitely the siblings were invited to go and encouraged to go. So I made a lot of friends, and she really did do well. Like I said, Katie was in preschool, and all the timing just worked out perfectly. I was able to, with timing as far as Bridget being in the center, and Katie in preschool, and it gave me some free time to talk to my the friends I had made there. A lot of times there were, we would have structured meetings with the director to address transitioning into regular schools, to address problems people were having with their child that maybe everybody could kind of kick in and give ideas, whatnot. And every time I said something, they would say, well, we'll have a private meeting with you. Because Bridget was so different than the other children. Um, Other than Angelman syndrome, most of the children had Down syndrome or were autistic. Bridget just fell in the middle of everything. She just didn't have a slot to fit into. And after a couple years of this happening, I finally said, do you know that every time, and they didn't do it on purpose. They didn't. But I said, do you know that every time you tell me in a general meeting that I would have to be spoken to separately, I said, you make me feel different in a room full of different. You made me feel separate from a group of mothers who are all such good friends of mine, and you make me feel different. You make me feel, like I said, different in the world of different, if that makes any sense. And I just got up and I left the room, and I was crying. And 3 moms came after me, and they were all crying. And the director finally got what I was talking about, because it was very difficult, because Bridget has always been different. Bridget, if I had not paid great attention, would have fallen through many cracks. Because she does not have one diagnosis, she has multiple diagnoses. So, like I said, she did wonderful at this program. I mean, I will not discount the amazing things they did at the program on how I was kind of shut out sometimes. That was me. That wasn't her. In the classroom, she thrived. So when she was about, I think 3.5, 4, we start to look to transition into public school. And there's a book of private schools that if a child can't fit into a regular program at the public schools, this is in Philadelphia, the director has a book that they can recommend a school, and it would be paid for by the state or the city, I'm not sure, but it was very rarely used, because I think only out of her graduation class, 1 person was allowed to go to a different program than the public schools. For Bridget, they gave me the book, and they said, see if you can find something. So we went to the school for the deaf, but she was deaf enough, but she wasn't cognitive enough. We went to the school for the blind because she is visually impaired. And again, she wasn't blind enough, believe it or not. We went for a tour at a school that was probably not quite an hour away. And they said she would have to be picked up at like 6 a.m. and would not be dropped off till 6 p.m. because it was so far. And also in that school were residential adults. Now, Bridget at the time if someone next to her had their hand down by their side, she would take their hand. And Bridget is totally nonverbal and will go with whoever is next to her and not think anything of it. The adult population there interacted with the younger children, walking around, whatever, and I didn't trust it. I don't trust any adults around her that were not certified teachers. Blame me for it, think I'm weird, I don't know, but I was not comfortable with that. And I was definitely not comfortable with the fact that she would leave early in the morning and get home in time for bed. And the only times I would see her would be on the weekends. That, basically, that was not going to work for me. So we ended up going to it wasn't our local public school. It was about, 15 or 20 minutes away from house. And she graduated when she was 4 because of her birthday. Not her due date, but her birthday. And the teachers were really wonderful. However, not as responsible as I would have liked them to be. One time, she came home from school, and I was changing her diaper. She had severe chemical burns on the back of her thighs. I had to take her to the emergency room. Now, by the time I had seen them, there was no one at the school. So I called the next day, and I said, Bridget came home from school with severe burns on her legs. And they immediately said, well, there's no chemicals in the room, there's nothing. And I knew for a fact that there were chemicals, because one of my friend's children in the same classroom was caught almost drinking bleach. So I know they had bleach in the room. The principal refused to speak with me. I went in and took a tour of the room to see where they sat, what chemicals were in the room, and it was all just dissatisfying, the answers I was getting. I don't even know, the doctor at the emergency room said maybe she was sitting on a radiator, and through her pants it burned and looked like a chemical burn. I don't know. I went to a lawyer because no one would speak to me about it, and was told that because it wasn't a continuing thing, nothing could be done. So Bridget stayed out of school almost 3 months because of the recovery. And they had even said to me, well, she hasn't been in class that much this year, so she's lost so much time. And I was like, no. She was injured in the school. She moves along as she would have otherwise. She did have a lot of fun at the school. We participated in all the dances and the parties and the Halloween, and although she did not like one boy who bullied her at the dances. And they would tell me about it, but they wouldn't separate them, and that kind of upset me. I wasn't really happy with her being there. And actually, in the one summer school, and this is nothing I can prove, this is nothing I have any evidence of or anything, she was put into a summer school room with a male teacher. And all of the other children, because like I said, Bridget was very hard to place. Every other child in that room was in a wheelchair. and some uh, with severe cerebral palsy, um, different things where they were nonverbal. Everyone just sat there. Bridget was pretty much the only one who would do coloring or do anything like that. So the teacher at one point had said to me that Bridget goes everywhere with him. She goes to get lunches. She goes to go to the office and everything. And, like, she was always with him. Well, simultaneously, this was a summer program, so it didn't go all summer. It was only like a month. Bridget started acting very peculiar when I was changing her diaper. When I would change her, she would hit her private area out of the blue. And even her sister noticed it. And she was like, "Mom, why is she hitting herself?" And I was like, I don't know. And then she would start reaching for toys and throwing them between her legs while I was changing her. Very, very, very disturbing. I took her to her pediatrician. And I said, "Is there any way I could check to see if something has been done to her, if she has been abused?" And Bridget weighed 23 pounds until she was 3. She was extremely tiny. So at this point, she's probably only not even 30 pounds. And the pediatrician said to me, he said, "I would love to help you, but she is too tiny for that kind of examination without really putting her in pain." So knowing that the summer school was going to be over, I just left it. I've always felt guilty, but I've always watched her very carefully ever since. The nonverbal part is really difficult. But, and I'll tell you, like in my first video, I said I hadn't given her my heart. By this time I had. She was with us. She had stayed with us. She survived. And my kids are just my heart. They're not who I am, but they're why I am. If that makes any difference. I mean, because I'm still who I am. I'm still Marietta. But I've been so blessed and so educated and so exposed to so many new things because of both my children that no other education can equal it. I have met people I would never have met. I have experienced things. I have experienced miracles. And with both my children. And it's been, one hell of a ride. Okay, so this one's a little bit longer. I'm sorry. I will start from 4 in my next video because a lot of things happened that year or in the coming years. And you take care and be well.